The United States has laid out a position on handling disputes in the South China Sea that is clear and consistent. We call for restraint and diplomatic resolution. We oppose provocation. We oppose coercion. We oppose the use of force. We do not take sides on competing territorial claims, and we want disputes to be resolved peacefully and in a manner consistent with international law. Nevertheless, there is a small fly in this ointment. The United States is calling for an approach based on the rule of law, but the United States has still not ratified the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, which is the most fundamental law governing maritime issues. This undermines our moral authority on the question. Secretary of State Kerry is intimately familiar with this issue because in his earlier position as chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, he was involved in administration efforts to move ratification forward. One can only hope that he will continue pressing for ratification of this important treaty.
My sense is that the issue is not ripe yet for legal and therefore final resolution of the issues as much as we would like it to be. I don't think there is a kind of emerged consensus for kind of resolving the issue once and for all, whether through arbitration or some other procedure. And I think the reason has to do with how the issue has evolved and what the attitudes are to the issue from the participants. I think there is no more complex country in the world than China. It is always painful to hear people in this country especially, but many other countries say China believes this, China believes that. I think the fact that China has over 1 billion citizens, with many of whom where there are some 2 billion points of view on many of these issues, you should not look for some kind of easy fix or easy approach to dealing with Chinese attitudes to this issue or any issue. I know, for example, having dealt many times with the Chinese over North Korea, that there too China has, there are many complexities to Chinese thinking and Chinese attitudes toward the situation in North Korea, and I suspect that with respect to Chinese thinking about the South China Sea, there are also many different points of view there.
I think the problem in the relations between China and the United States lie in the security field or military field. If you look at that field of the relationship between China and the United States, you will find 3 major issues or problems. One is distrust. I believe this is the fundamental cause for this instability of the relationship between these 2 countries. Because of distrust, I think we have got another problem, that is miscalculation. Actually, on both sides, we have miscalculation. Chinese have miscalculations over the United States or the Americans, and the Americans have miscalculations over China. And the third, because of the first and the second problems, we have got the third problem, that is action and reaction, which is very important. Whether you accept or not, whether you agree or not, I think races between China and the United States are there and in different fields, from space to cyberspace to conventional and even and non-traditional security fields. So, and the present situation, if you look at the first problem, you may find that whatever Chinese say, that China will develop in a peaceful way. I don't think this will be trusted by the United States or by some of the scholars and the practitioners in the United States.
The reason why Vietnam and Malaysia can be successful in entering a joint development for their continental shelf based on 2 simple reasons. First of all, because they are quite clear in delineate their claim borders based on UNCLOS to claim economic zone and continental shelf. And in case the continental shelf, we both agree with the claim of each other, the legal basis of the claim. And the second one is because both of us has the willing. We have the willing to shelve the dispute and go for economic benefits. And so far, I can proud to say that it is one of the most effective joint development model in the South China Sea, because the two parties can quickly enter into the agreement and have the real economic benefits.
But I'm thinking of a international conference that could focus on some of the issues that ASEAN is failing at, like the code of conduct or negotiation of an incidents at sea agreement. You know, you have similar issues in the Indian Ocean with the Indians and the Chinese. You have similar issues in the East China Sea. Maybe that's what we need to work out, because that's where the real prospect for conflict is. The Chinese, I don't think anyone thinks the Chinese are going to invade Palawan anytime soon. The real problem is that somehow we're going to accidentally fall into conflict. The Chinese are going to fire on a Philippine armed vessels, which invokes the U.S. Treaty commitment to the Philippines. We don't necessarily, it's not an automatic trigger, but it immediately gets us talking about it. Or you don't have time, you don't have reaction times. That's part of the problem that's going on in the East China Sea right now, is this whole issue of painting helicopters and painting naval vessels cuts down the reaction time immediately. So we could be in the middle of a conflict before any of us know it, before we have a chance to go back and consult Washington. So I think we could do some constructive things that ASEAN right now is not able to do.
I'm optimistic because there's so much at stake economically for the U.S. and China and the region and the world. This is the crossroads of global commerce, freedom of navigation. Politically, there's a great deal at stake in terms of preserving the ASEAN way, the presumption of the non-use of force as a core value, as a way to build upon this political and economic community in ASEAN, which is really just on the cusp of achieving international stature as Asia rises generally. And strategically, I'm driven to the imperative, if not optimistic, in the sense that others have noted that America's dominant role, including its maritime role, is perhaps susceptible, maybe most susceptible to being challenged in Asia by a rapidly expanding China in the South China Sea. And so this is a very important area. This is indeed the topic of this entire conference, is called for a reason, South China Sea central to Asia-Pacific peace and security.
To reaffirm, we should not see these issues in the South China Sea in isolation of other developments and other imperatives and other pressures that are happening elsewhere in the globe. And it's not simply a matter of the stakeholders being engaged. Global opinion is engaged in terms of the resolution of the issues that are before us at this conference and in other fora. Confidence-building measures over time can serve to minimise risk and dramatically to reduce the possibility of a mishap, misadventure, or an accident. Again, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We have done this previously at a global level. If the tensions are reduced and the risks are reduced, then it's possible to negotiate, and ASEAN has a central role here, to negotiate some joint economic development, not necessarily based on the 9-dash line, to take that off the agenda. The joint economic zones have worked and can work, and obviously it's based on mutual benefit. And when mutual benefit prevails, people naturally see their own interests as being served.
We do want to find out exactly what the problem is, why it's so complicated, and if possible, find a way out for cooperation. But as you understand, we are academic institutions. We do take side, but we take side with a fact and the reality. We don't take side for the claimants. So our purpose, like we're going to emphasize later, is for academic purposes. And we respect the freedom of academic research, and we understand the complexity in terms of politics. However, we just cannot pretend that we have a position or political position on this. We don't. At least consciously, we don't want to do that. We only take side from fact, and I hope our friends from all other countries understand that.